welcome to the Mindset Michelle TV show. We're so super excited for you to be joining us for yet another extra special guest. And today's lovely, wonderful guest that we have is the amazing Jane Turner. Hello, Jane.
Hello, Michelle. It's great to be here with you.
It's so lovely having you. Jane is one of those people that I've admired and sort of known from afar. So I'm looking forward today to getting to know Jane a bit more and inviting you guys on that wonderful journey. Now, for people that don't know, and there's a little bit of a list, so I'll have to refer to my notes, all the different things that Jane has been doing. She is a best-selling author of 4 books, an author coach, so she helps other people to write their books, a publisher and then publish their books, an international speaker, a master coach, not just a master coach, but a master NLP practitioner, and she's also the founder of Writing with Jane. Now, all of those different incredible and amazing accomplishments, I'm fascinated. Jane, please, can you explain to people, how did you come to be doing all of these different things, and what was your journey like from, you know, growing up and becoming the amazing accomplished person that you are today?
Oh, thank you. What a question. That's I've got plenty of material I could share, but to hone in on the how I come to be doing what I'm doing now, the fact of the matter is that I worked for the public service, which for any of your listeners who aren't in Australia, you perhaps call it the civil service, or essentially I worked for the government. So that was my whole working life up to the age of 52 when I was made redundant. And being made redundant was not only confronting, but it got me to find out who I really was. Now, that wasn't a short journey from being made redundant to going, oh, I get it. This is who I am then. This is what I should do. Because, of course, my whole identity was wrapped up in the work that I did, in my own head, certainly. And it's just been such an incredible journey. And so let me just say that before being made redundant, I got my coach training and I got my NLP training that you've mentioned. I have those as some credentials. Now, that sort of opened my mind up a little bit, Michelle. It was as if a switch was switched, and, you know, I got a sense of potentially more being available to me. And this was several years before I was actually made redundant, but I thought this coaching stuff is fantastic, because I got to see some of the people that I coached go on to do amazing things. And this is the thing about us, that if we're prepared to open our mind to the fact that there is more to us than what we think and what we are today, then gosh, some incredible things can happen. So I started writing this book, and I had the view to, when I got my daughter through year 12, I would leave the public service and launch a coaching program, a coaching company, I should say, helping women through the midlife phase, because I was going through that phase myself at the time. And I thought, oh man, I got to do something about this. I've got to, you know, really take a moment and think about all the ways I can help myself to feel better, because my self-care hadn't been that great, to be perfectly honest, up to that stage. So I started putting myself through a little bit of a program where I was consciously exercising, managing my stress, managing my mindset, which was really a big deal for me. You know, looking at my relationships, all of those various things that combined make the life that we live. You know, we are in charge of a whole lot more than we think, is, I suppose, point number one I would like to mention there. But the thing is, here I am, then I start nutting away at a book with the view to several years down the track, starting a coaching practice. And why I thought the book was a good idea was that when I started looking at all of the successful coaches, I saw that they had a book, that signature book that branded them and boosted their profile. So ultimately, as you know already, because I mentioned it before, I was made redundant before that book was finished and before I was ready. You know, and I'll say ready in inverted commas like this, because we're never not ready. is the point, but I certainly didn't know it at the time. So there I go through all of my stress, all of my catastrophizing, all of my imposter syndrome, everything that could have made me feel even worse was what was going on in my head, frankly. And long story short, what I found out in the process of writing my book, when I had to get really serious about it, was a fabulous tool from the point of view of storytelling, but perhaps more importantly, a fabulous framework to understand when we want to keep everything in perspective. And what that's called is the hero's journey.
Wonderful. And that's fabulous. And we can get to that perhaps a little bit later on, because
yes,
I'm excited about hearing about those different tools. But what else did you want to share? Because I love hearing how you're on the journey to leaving and to setting up a new stage, a new life, and then the universe kind of conspired and you were made redundant. That must have been quite a challenging period of time to lose that, like you described, lose that identity and to reinvent yourself and to create a new identity. So I'm interested in, having created that new identity and created this new life, today and with who you are, I'm sure it's quite different to what you were looking at before, but what do you now think success means to you? What would you say success is today?
I'd say success is to be able to feel that you are making a difference, firstly. It's about that point. So seeing that there is a point to any adversity that we have to overcome and to the things that we do on a daily basis. But also it's about feeling fulfilled, which is not to say that every day is roses and chocolates. It's just to say that when we look back over what we've done in a week, in a month, in a year, even in a day, when we look back, to have some sense of fulfillment and satisfaction that we are doing work, even if it's not work, we are living our best life in a sense. That's my idea of success, Michele.
I love that, living your best life. I think it's such a living your best life. That's like 4 words, but I think that as a definition of success, that is, such a powerful, powerful one. Feeling like you're making a difference and feeling fulfilled. Are some of the key elements are so important today for creating that successful mindset, because you're not like necessarily putting a dollar value or a job role or a this or a that, but feeling like you have that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and living your best life. So Jane, to live your best life, and I'm sure you've got so many wonderful tips and suggestions to share, because having gone through that deconstruction, if you like, of a persona and of who you were and of your life as that public service employee, and then and I'm sure it wasn't the easiest of journeys at times, but reconstructing a new persona and a new you and a new world view of you and in your own mind, and for others to look at, so that you are the founder of Writing with Jane, etc. What sorts of, and I'm so excited about this. What sorts of suggestions and tips do you have for people that may have similar kinds of experiences and journeys that they're going on, to help them to keep creating that mindset for success?
It's a great question. And if I can just quickly jump back to Hero's Journey, I think if I quickly talk a little bit about that, then that would be a suggestion to just keep in mind that whatever happens, it is a journey. So that initially you'll start moving and then something is likely to get in your way. And that thing is those things that happen. We might lose a job, we might get sick, we might be robbed, any number of things that'll shake us a little bit. And as long as we don't go into our shell and think, okay, this is too hard, the world is treating me badly, it's not fair, all of those are disempowering thoughts to have. And it's not that I don't ever have them, but it's when we have them that you go, hang on, though, that's not helpful. What if I look at what I can do now? What's in my control? So hero's journey stuff is all about seeing that nothing that happens to us is in any way intentional by the universe or anybody else for that matter, meant to be undermining us. It's actually meant to be challenging us so that we can learn and grow for as long as we live. And one of the things we need to learn at some stage is that we are much more resourceful than we ever thought we were. And that was the beauty of for me, to be made redundant and to find the hero's journey, to be able to put it in perspective, because perspective is everything.
I love, and for people that aren't in the coaching or the NLP sorts of world, the hero's journey, and it's quite a specific phrase. I've forgotten the guy Campbell's name, but
Joseph Campbell.
Joseph Campbell is like the authority figure in this space. He's studied it quite extensively, and even my favourite author in this space, St. Thomas, he talks about the hero's journey, and I refer to that book quite a lot. But so for people that haven't heard it, what it is it's looking at a life journey and looking at you as the hero in your life and you as the hero on this journey. And it's treating, like Jane so beautifully is sharing, the challenges and the ups and downs of life as you being the hero, overcoming those challenges. And the premise or the starting point is that you will overcome them and that you will be the hero in your own story, in your own journey. And I love how you were sharing that reframe about what is happening in those challenges are there to help us to learn and grow. And if people think about most of the stories and the movies that you love to watch, it's because of the challenges and the lessons that people go through in those movies and stories that help them to grow. So this is where this concept of the hero's journey, and it's a wonderful, wonderful suggestion about looking at your own life and seeing yourself as the hero in your own life story as such, and that you're going through those challenges and journeys so that you can become the hero of your own life.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And that kind of brings me back also to finishing the first question about, well, how come I'm now a book writing coach, especially as I wrote a book called Thrive in Midlife with the view to actually becoming a coach for women going through menopause. Well, the answer to that is that when I was standing on stage launching that book, I had a couple of the Thrive in Midlife, I should say, launching that book. I had a couple of cathartic moments. And one of them was that, oh my goodness, I wasn't put on this earth to help women through menopause. I was put on this earth to help people feel this, to feel the power of owning their own story and being prepared to just step up and be seen. And whether it's speaking in public, whether it's writing a book, whatever it needs to be, where you, again, that living your fullest to your fullest potential, where you're really doing what you've been put on this earth to do, it's a very, very powerful thing. And so from that, I now don't run a coaching practice helping women through menopause. I run the coaching practice through helping people become published authors.
Wow, I love that, and that wonderful awareness that you're sharing there about how the awareness around what you're here to do and what your gifts and what your passions are in life. So standing on stage, which for many people would be like, that's the achievement and that's the end of the hero's journey, as we were saying. But recognizing that the next chapter of your hero's journey was actually around pivoting again from helping women through midlife to helping women to share their stories through books and through speaking. It's a wonderful, wonderful example again of a pivot. What do you think were some of the mindset or the thinking that you were doing at the time that again helps you? You put it beautifully before, where when describing, you know, being made redundant and going into those feelings of poor self-worth and poor thinking practices, which are very normal and natural, but pulling yourself out of there and recognizing that you had that inner strength and inner skills to build and reconstruct a new version of you. What sorts of mental things did you do to keep that focus on building that mindset for success up again?
Well, it was actually just building a mindset for success, to be perfectly honest. And what's so interesting was that in the process of writing the book, and when I looked at what the structure should be, it obviously needed to have a chapter on mindset. So I then started researching mindset and finding all the different ways that I'd been making my life so much harder than it had to be. And, you know, I learned about the difference between growth and fixed mindsets. I learned about how to switch yourself from a fixed mindset if you find yourself in it. I learned the importance of neuroplasticity, which absolutely means that we can do and become whatever we want to. And so I just, that writing that book was a massive learning journey for me. And that's where the mindset and my understanding of it now, I've now written 2 books on mindset, which is my bestseller, Mindset for Authors and Mindset for Business. And it's just, I'm so, so grateful to have found these things out, because again, the understanding of what's going on in our head at any given time is just so helpful. It's not that we need to go, oh, stop thinking these stupid thoughts, or look, you're undermining yourself again, and you know, this and that and this and that. It's about, isn't that interesting? I thought I'd done that work around that problem, but here it is. So I'll just do some more work around it, because nothing is set in stone is the great thing. If we don't like something, let's see what we can do about it.
And that's interesting that you raise a really fabulous point, and congratulations about those books, Mindset for Authors and Mindsets for Business Owners. But you raise a really fabulous point, not just about the growth versus fixed mindset, neuroplasticity, and the learning journey, but that recognition that if something's not working, or if you're still coming back to a fixed mindset about something, that you just can do some more work on it. I can recognize that not everybody might think that they can change or that they can work on something. What do you think sort of gave you the sense that you could do it and that you could change it? What was it that, you know, you sort of said to yourself or helped yourself with?
Well, what the hero's journey again helped me a lot, and this is a classic hero's journey thing, that when I finally finished the first book after, you know, $30,000 spent on various writing programs and over 5 years of procrastinating and self-doubt and chasing shiny object syndrome and what have you, when I finally got to finish the book, and it only got finished because I was totally desperate and I had no more money coming into the family home, and, you know, I had to work something out. So I thought, oh, I've just got to finish this book and get on with it. Well, the point about that was that I then got to see, oh my God, I'm an author. Who thought that? Did I ever really believe I was going to become an author? Was that 5 years really me just staying distracted from what was really going on underneath the surface? You know, all of these wonderful questions. But I think one of the important things from a mindset point of view is just remembering to ask yourself questions, to not take things for granted, especially the things going on in your head. And that would be a great legacy I'd love to leave with your listeners if there was nothing else they take out of this conversation.
Yeah, I love, again, you're sharing such incredible pearls of wisdom, and you know, recognizing, I'm so glad you mentioned about the hero's journey, but recognizing that each time I'm asking these questions, even that it comes back to that understanding that it's a journey, and understanding yourself, and that you're at different stages or parts of it, and that sometimes when you're at those stages that are a bit more challenging, or where you're seeing that you've got a bit more of a fixed mindset around stuff, then sometimes the universe, and as you were describing, I love that description. You know, I'd been writing it for 5 years, and something had to happen. I had to, you know, start bringing money back into the house, and that's what typically happens for people, is it's something to do with life circumstances that kind of gives that final push. And then once you get that final push, and you're standing there, like you so beautifully described, you're standing there on stage going, I actually finished my book. I'm an author. I'm a published author now. And, you know, people that go on that journey and stand on that stage, you know what sacrifices and determination and all of those hero's journey elements that you go through in the process. So it is that journey and that process of writing the book. And I've been saying to people for many years, and I'm sure you say it to all the people you work with as well, once you've done that book, you then know you can achieve anything, because you've got that proof again in your hands that when you put your mind to something, you can do it. And that success mindset comes from, whether it's a small ebook that you want to start with or a big book like your 4 books. It's having that proof to yourself, not to anybody else, but having that proof that you can do it, and then proving and proving. And once you've done it once or twice in those bigger ways, then your hero and your journey gets bigger and bigger.
So true.
So in these fabulous tips about it's a journey and building the mindset, and how much do you think that your NLP training and understanding how to change your mindset? I guess when I'm talking to people, I'm always looking at the habits that they build, but you also, through having that master NLP background, have very technical insights into how to then change your brain and change your thinking. How much do you think that supported you with building new habits and new ways of living?
Oh, now it wasn't a straightforward experience, to be perfectly honest. And one of the NLP tools is called timeline therapy, where I won't go into too much detail, but where, you know, a coach will ask you a question, and if they're trained in an NLP, they'll be noticing if there's an inflection in your voice or a twitch, you know, in your expression, or the color changes. And they will have asked a question to hopefully get down to an emotion, because it's our emotions that make our decisions, not our head. And it's really important to get to that level to find out what's really going on. So for me, through a timeline therapy, and we were just demonstrating, actually. I was one of the people who went to the stage when the facilitator says, who wants to help me demonstrate? In the process of demonstrating, and I was at 45 at the time, I found out that I was a surviving twin in the case of vanishing twin syndrome. So that completely threw my life up in the air. And I won't mind saying that it was really quite traumatic. So there were many years then of healing of all sorts of kinds of, you know, rebirthing and kinesiology and all sorts of weird and wonderful things to get back to a place of what I'll call equanimity. And to the point where I then could see the value in the NLP, just in terms of asking questions, I should say, in a way that helps people to just go beyond the conscious mind and stop telling themselves the stories that they have been telling themselves, and to find the resourceful stories that are much more helpful and at least equally, if not more real, than the more disempowering stories that they're probably more used to.
I love how, and thank you so much for sharing what must have been a really, I don't want to use the word challenging, but a part of your hero's journey that took you on many, many deep twists and turns. So I'm choosing my words quite carefully there, because I recognize that for many people, it is a deep, deep, like Thomas More and the Dark Night of the Soul. You know, that those deep moments in your life where you go in and you're doing a lot of deep reflection about stuff that has happened. And I hear that with the timeline therapy and the twinning, etc. And I also hear that one of the things that you took from that was around how this work helped you to go beyond the conscious mind to notice when you're telling yourself the positive and the negative stories. And one of the things that we do in our business is help people to reframe all the time. And I think that for me, one of the key things with NLP is helping people to notice when and I still catch myself. It's a very human thing again. But when you're telling yourself a story and it's a negative story where everybody ends up dying, and I'm exaggerating, but you know, the world blows up, everybody's dead, etc. Instead of telling yourself a story where everybody comes, there's no world poverty, there's world peace, etc. So understanding that that's kind of the pathway that thinking might be going on, and that you have the power, because it's a story, it's only in your head, you have the power to interrupt that story and choose where you want it to go. And I really hear that the recognition of the emotions behind, and in that powerful example you were sharing, the recognition of the emotionals behind the story and the journey that you're on with that story is what then helps you. And it's a very, thank you so much, it's a powerful, powerful tip, because recognizing that it's the emotions, because people talk about why doesn't this affirmation work, or why doesn't that work, or this work, and it's the emotions behind it. So you've shared an incredible and powerful example where recognizing the emotions behind the story can then help you to choose a different pathway for that story to go on.
Yes, yes. And of course, then I found the pathway that ultimately, though, we are talking some considerable years, but I ultimately found the pathway that's brought me to a place where I'm doing work that I love. I often say I'll never work another day in my life, but it's just that sense of purpose. So I think people, if they can tap into and try to find what their sense of purpose, it's about what matters to them. It's not about what matters to anybody else. But I think that's absolutely key.
And again, such a powerful, powerful way of framing it, that you came to the end of that segment of your journey, if you like, and like the hero in the stories and the movies that we were talking about, you became aware of what your purpose was, and so now you're not working, you're living your purpose, and the work that you're doing in helping women to share their stories in books and speaking is actually, like we're saying, it's not work, it's sharing your purpose, and it's working with purpose. And you're doing and living in your love of your life and your work, etc. And it's such a, again, I'm so grateful that we're having this conversation today, because it's really sharing with everybody that's watching about that wonderful journey, and the real hero story in your journey, and how in the final stages of reaching that, you know, oh, this is what I'm here for, and this is how I can serve in the world and have purpose. Jane, I feel like we could keep talking about this for hours, because it's such an inspirational area. But really, if people wanted to reach out to you and get some coaching around writing their own book or exploring their own story, what's the best way for people to get hold of you?
Yeah, look, probably popping in on my website, which is called writewithjane.com. Or if they'd like to email me at jane@writewithjane.com, that would be great too. And I'd love to hear from anybody if they'd like to have a conversation about perhaps writing their own book. Or in fact, quite happy to talk to anyone who just wants to have a conversation. That's the power of conversations. That's a whole other session for you to run at some time, Michele. But yeah, it's been a joy to talk to you today.
Oh, fabulous. And Jane, if I was to ask you, given that you essentially came to working and living closer to your what you would see as your life's purpose and what you're here for, that you spent a significant amount of time working in the government with a different sort of sense of purpose. But what advice might you today give to your younger self?
Oh, I would say worry less, believe in yourself, and be prepared to, in inverted commas, do the work. And back in the day, I don't even know if there was such a thing as work, but do the work, because really there are layers. We're like the onion skin. There are layers to who we are and how we turn up in the world, and it can keep getting better and better. Which is not, I don't want to sugarcoat everything. Life isn't perfect, but boy, I'm so glad to have gone through everything I've gone through to get to here. It's a much better place than I've ever been before.
And I can really see that. I can see how you're glowing, and it's not just fabulous skin and all of those other elements that I can see when looking at you. The fabulous skin actually comes from that inner glow, and that's what you can really sense. And so I love that, believing in yourself and doing the work, overcoming whatever it is that is being placed in front of you on that hero's journey and doing that work. Jane, it's been such an absolute honour and pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Michele. I've loved every minute of it.
And we've loved having you and sharing some really very, very profound. I feel quite a sense of profoundness after talking through your hero's journey and walking with you through those different steps. So thank you for coming on the show, Jane, today. Coming on the show today, Jane, and to people watching. But for now, from my heart to your heart, be great, be fabulous, and be you.